Hello and welcome. Our webinar today is presented by
Serena Ali.
and Michaela Iskova-Pekаш. We welcome our special guest today to take part in our discussion, Florian and Anil. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So, in the world of early childhood education, we are often taught to wear our hearts on our sleeves. Because we care so deeply for children, the line between our personal feelings and professional duties can get blurred. Today, we are going to be discussing and reflecting on Grace Judson insights from How Can I Say This podcast on empathy in action in difficult conversations. We want to challenge the idea that empathy is just about being nice. Instead, we are going to treat empathy as a professional muscle, a specific skill that helps us connect while maintaining boundaries that keep us effective and sane. So, who is Grace Judson? Before we dive in further, here is a little background on Grace Judson. She's a leadership coach, consultant, and author who specializes in helping recently promoted managers navigate the transition from being a peer to being a leader. With over 25 years of corporate experience and 16 years in executive leadership, she focuses on the human side of management, specifically communication, conflict resolution, and empathy. Interestingly, Jade often jokes that her career started at age 2 when she would try to bridge the gap between her parents during arguments, a spark that fueled her lifelong quest to understand what makes people tick. Today, she is recognized expert on professional empathy, teaching leaders how to use emotional intelligence as a strategic tool to build high-performing, responsive teams. So what really defines empathy? Grace defines empathy as understanding someone well enough to know why they do what they do. In a classroom, this turns empathy into data. If a child hits a peer, our standard reaction is to stop the hitting. But if we use empathy, we ask about the why. Is the child hungry? Overstimulated? When we understand the root cause, we gain the tools to resolve the actual conflict rather than just reacting to the behavior. It's about comprehension, not just compassion. And what is the difference between personal and professional empathy? In our daily work, we encounter deep human emotions, from a child's joy to parents' extreme stress. Grace makes a vital distinction here between personal and professional empathy. In a personal friendship, you may sit with someone in their crisis, but in ECE settings, we have a different responsibility. Professional empathy is about meeting a person where they're emotionally so that we can help them navigate a professional goal, like a child's transition plan or a difficult feedback session. We have to be careful not to slip into friend mode, where our desire to help lead us to bypass center policies or compromise our professional standards. By maintaining a clear boundary, we aren't being cold. We are actually providing the emotional safety and predictability that families need from us. As Grace says, clarity is a form of care.
So, Anna and Florin, Grace tells us about the hostage negotiator technique, which is to hold these boundaries. Grace suggests a technique from hostage negotiator Chris Voss, the no-oriented question. Often we try to get people to say yes, which can feel like a trap. Instead, ask a question where the answer is no. Actually helps you. For example, if a parent is lingering 20 minutes past closing time, you can ask, is it unreasonable for me to want to focus on closing the center so I can get home to my family? It is much easier for a stressed parent to say no, that isn't unreasonable, which effectively gets them to agree to your boundary. Flora and Anna, we did an exercise in our class a few weeks ago to give you an idea of what traits and qualities you would have. We're here now connecting the dots between Ocean and the Johari window. To master professional empathy, we must connect it to our earlier tools, the Johari window and Ocean traits. In the Johari window, empathy is like to shrinking your blind spot. By truly listening to a parent or colleague's perspective, we uncover insights about their teaching style that we couldn't see along, moving in that information to the open area where trust is built. Regarding the Ocean results, your personality dictates your empathy style. If you're high in agreeableness, you're prone to fix-it trap and many struggles with boundaries. If you're low in that area, professional empathy provides a structured framework to build connection you might not naturally have. Essentially, while Ocean tells us who we are, professional empathy shows us how to use that self-awareness to be effective RECs. For everyone here, how have you taken consideration diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for empathy in a difficult conversation? When we approach difficult conversations, we intentionally apply diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging principles to ensure the discussion is empathetic, respectful, and psychologically safe for everyone involved. First, we recognize that people bring different lived experiences and perspectives, so we focus on listening actively without making assumptions. We try to understand how someone's background or circumstances may influence how they view the situation. Second, we make sure the environment feels safe for the other person to express their concerns openly. We ask open-ended questions and give them space to share their perspective. Third, we validate their feelings, even if we see the situation differently. Acknowledging someone's experiences helps build trust and shows respect. And finally, we work collaboratively toward a solution that is fair and inclusive, ensuring the person feels heard and valued. Applying these principles is the way that helps turn difficult conversations into opportunities for understanding growth and a stronger relationship. We'll leave you with this. Empathy is a muscle. Whether you are naturally an empath or someone who finds emotional connection difficult, Grace shows us that it can be learned. As RECEs, our job is to help children and families see each other. To our guests joining us today, Grace mentions that empathy isn't about agreeing, but also about understanding. So, Florin and Anil, we will go into the questions we have asked you to think and reflect on. And I'll start with you, Anil. Can you share a time where you understood why someone was upset, even if you didn't agree with how they acted?
Thank you, Serena. That's a very interesting question. In my field, I've actually experienced that situation quite a few times, maybe too often than needed to. I work in the technology space, and our support team is very multifunctional. Our team managed complex projects with tight deadlines while juggling everyday activities. Um, in a situation during a project meeting, we were discussing individual tasks and timelines, and a team member, very close friend, became very upset and expressed frustration. Now, I personally did not agree with the method they addressed it, especially in a large audience and a team meeting. It wasn't the right place and time. However, because I work closely with a coworker, I could understand the pressure and the tight deadline could be factors that cause the stress and the behavior. So after the meeting, I met with the coworker. My thought process was to isolate the issue and address the matter privately with the employee. I think this allowed them to freely voice their concerns, speak openly, and at the same time build a sort of a kind of a trust between myself and them. The main focus was listening and understanding the matter from the employee's perspective, which helped me understand their reaction. From the conversation, I acknowledged their frustration and let them know I understood the pressure they were under. At the same time, I kind of gently mentioned that, hey, raising such concerns in a calmer, cooler way could help the team respond more effectively. In the end, the conversation was great. I think the conversation helped reduce the tension, build the trust, as I mentioned, and support a true team environment. As a team, the takeaways from this, we improve how we check in regarding workload. And for me personally, at the same time, it reinforced for me that even when someone's reaction isn't right for the situation, we really have to take a step back and understand the reason for the emotions. And I think all in all, this is a win where we help each other resolve the issue constructively. So it was a good meeting. I think the experience was ideal, and we are able to pull ourselves away from the situation and really understand the part where emotions played a role, and we were able to move on constructively.
Thank you, Anil. I really respect that you shared that with us and for taking a mature reasoning with your colleague and you worked as a team together. I love the fact that you took the person aside as opposed to confronting them with everybody else. So that shows maturity on your level and being able to understand other people's perspectives. So thank you for sharing that. Florin, would you mind sharing your thoughts on how do you maintain empathy for a parent or colleague when you fundamentally disagree with their choices?
Thank you for the question, Serena. That's something that I actually very much relate to as somebody that works on a very diverse team. So I grew used to reminding myself that everyone has their own opinions based on their upbringing, culture, experience. Some of those might be fundamentally apart from my own, but I do my best to look at it logically and understand where the person is coming from. In my experience, some of these fundamentally different choices have formed oftentimes as a safety measure against something that has happened in the past. Of course, understanding where they're coming from logically doesn't make me agree with them, but it helps me separate the person from their choices. And I tend personally to often stay away from some of these topics in the future to avoid further tension and conflicts.
That's awesome, Florin. Thank you for sharing that. And I like that you're trying to put yourself in the other person's shoes to understand their beliefs and values. So kudos to you on that. Thank you for sharing.
And Serena, just before we finish the webinar today, I have two prepared questions for you. And the first one is, how can an educator keep a professional empathy balance without the relationship becoming too personal or blurry?
Well, Mihaela and Floriano, an educator can maintain professional empathy by showing genuine care and understanding while keeping a clear professional boundary by listening to students, acknowledging their feelings, and offering support, but avoid sharing overly personal details or becoming involved in students' personal lives beyond what's appropriate. Setting consistent expectation, communicating respectfully, and following school policies help ensure the relationship stays supportive yet professional. This balance allows students to feel valued while preserving the educator's role and authority.
Thank you for sharing. And the last questions for today is, how does setting professional boundaries actually help prevent the emotional exhaustion many educators face?
So setting professional boundaries helps prevent emotional exhaustion by limiting how much personal and emotional energy educators give to students' problems. When teachers keep clear limits on their roles and responsibilities, they avoid taking on issues that are outside their control or expertise. This helps protect their mental well-being, reduces stress, and allows them to stay focused and effective in their teaching. Well, we've wrapped up today for this webinar, so we want to say a great thank you to our special guest, Florina Nano, for joining and sharing your thoughts and your conversations today. It was well taken, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Have a good day, folks.
Yeah, have a good day.